So Fredrik is the CTO, I guess that's the
Yes.
Chief Technology Officer, is that
Yeah,
right?
that's what they call me sometimes.
And also a co-founder at Neoss.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're scaling up on the proud world-class tradition of dental implants in Gothenburg.
Yeah, it's a good place to start from Gothenburg in this business. So.
And actually, so Fredrik, he told me that this week you've been entertaining the Japanese emperor's dentist and his disciples. So I think that's quite in itself is a little bit of a indication that you guys are scaling up and taking a little bit more of an international approach. So what was that all about?
Well, it's for them to come to Gothenburg with their disciples. It's quite a strong hierarchy in Japan, and to attract the #1 dentist in that way, and to show the history of implants, it's very strong for him. So that's part of it. Yep. But you also need the organization to take care of that. So sure. You wouldn't do it day one.
Yep.
So you need to be in this phase as we are now.
That's great. We're such distinguished guests, though.
Yeah.
Very cool. And so then, you know, I'm going to leave it to you, really. But Neoss and your scale up.
Thank you very much for inviting me. Just to, I wish I had listened to Maria's lecture before I started Neoss, but still helpful to see. Some things we've done right, for sure. Very shortly, most of you would know dental implants, and I think some of you have worked for Biocare and maybe AstraTech as well. The whole business was developed in Sweden, Gothenburg, Sahlgrenska, and specifically the Department of Anatomy under Professor Bornemark's research. And the idea was to use titanium in bone as an anchorage for prosthesis. It took him a very long time to get this accepted. He worked from the mid-60s and not until the mid-80s did actually some people start to recognize this method. Nobel Biocare was then the first company to take this on and develop together with Brånemark. And later Astra also started with this. I have, if we look at what has happened since the mid-80s, today it's the core business is about $4.5 billion business. It's much larger if you add what has happened ever since. It's dominated by 4 players. 7% of the market is controlled by them after a lot of consolidations, with something you have to consider too. There are about 20 players. Neoss is one of those, with around 25%. And then you have 400 or 500, it depends on how you calculate, small companies that are very local, and they try to get into this. This portion is, I think, due to regulation, slowly phasing away. So why would you try to enter a maturing market like this, and very competitive? Yeah, there are opportunities. Today's offering is quite complex. We have emerging markets with Asia, very interesting. You have trends in terms of education and the big shift to digital. Dental, I would say, is very early to adopt digital. And that is good for a small company like us. A lot of opportunities. The growth today is 4 to 5%, not very high, you could say, but it's there are a lot of markets which are under penetrated. The setup cost is relatively high, will be even higher in the future with the new MDR, but also the margins are nice. So we're working in the 80% region, and And that is in terms of scale up. That's where we are. We are now starting to get the benefit from all the work that we've done during the years. Clinical problems. There are still clinical problems with this, or improvements that we can make. Personally, that's what drive me. We can increase the indication. We can also treat more patients. Then we have how do we enter? So there's a why, yeah, but what's the how? And we have technology. We can have clinical proofs. So we work with the supply chain, and finally the market approach. In terms of technology, you can have one feature, it doesn't really work. You have to have a whole battery of very strong key features within your package. For us, it's absolutely ease of use and strong clinical performance of our product. We have today a very deep relationship with Gothenburg University, the Department of Biomaterials. We also are part of the education at Odontologen. We have a lot of international contacts, which we developed from day one to be prepared for this growth. Work with Chalmers, VGR and Vinnova in terms of funding for some of these projects, and also RISE. So a lot of good competence in this region, very, very important for us. Not only to start Neoss, but to continue to grow. A key thing is supply chain. Dental implants, as they were developed here, we do have a good supply base in this region, very, very strong. And made in Sweden is, for this business that I'm in, very, very important. It also relates to QA and RA. We touched upon that earlier today. And to have that competence, especially now with the new MDR, it's absolutely key. And to organize QA and RA in certain ways, that is what we have done. The market approach, you can go and prepare everything. That's very difficult. You have to start somewhere. Market changes. When I started in Neoss, we had a huge change in a reimbursement system. So and also we had, which was good, but we also had a financial crisis, and most of our products are self-paid. So of course that affects our growth. To be flexible in the plans, but to create a strong, profitable base, we did that in Germany, so not in Sweden, and we continue to have that as our key market. Based on that, we have initially slowly we added the markets, so we have a big footprint today, which in hindsight was too big. It's good to have it today, but we spent a lot of resources on this, maybe too early. So to take this in steps is very, very important. So if you have done your homework, you have your organization in place. For me, that's the scale up. It's the work to be able to scale up. That's and to get all these and be prepared for the future. With some products, I think it's you can add a product, add a market. You can go, you do the regulatory applications, etc. But in our business, you will have different demands in different markets. So it's not a scale up. Is not to just push a button. You have to have this big organization to be able to take the next step. How can you then grow if you have this foundation? our patients, they have our products in their mouth for the rest of their life, hopefully. And it means that time that you have been on the market is extremely important. I would say, and I think that differs from a lot of other medical devices. So we have to have a company presence. The company brand needs to just shine on reliability and long term. So now we've been on the market for almost 15 years. It has been very slow, but now even the Japanese, they are coming here and say, okay, this is working. You have shown that it's a sustainable company. They are not so, it's first of all, that is important. Then, of course, the product will follow, but especially that. The use of our origin has been a key for us. To come from Gothenburg with Pierre Brånemark, it's one of the biggest differentiators that we have, and we are using that as much as possible. And as I said, the Japanese example here is something that we continue to do for market per market. We have grown. We started 1 person, now we are 100. We have treated hundreds of thousands of patients. We're present on almost all markets in the world except South America and Eastern Europe. We have a profitable business. We can decide our own destiny. We acquire companies today. So even though those are not markets, they are technology companies. So we don't buy organic growth in that way. And all this is because of P.I. Brånemark, and it's just a fantastic opportunity to be able to just carry his heritage further. So I think we are quite far in this scale-up process, so to say. So thank you.
Cool. Thank you, Fredrik.